So they're going to be asking you, Part D, if you want to change your name in any way. So this is if you've decided that, you know, I think I want to change the spelling, I think I want to add a name, I want to lose my middle name. This is the best time for you to do that, because later on, if you choose to change your name, you need to see an attorney, you need to put an ad in the paper, you need to pay a fee. So if you want to change your name, give it some thought. This would be the time to do it. And Part 2 is asking, on what basis are you applying for citizenship? Most times it's A, that you've been a lawful permanent resident for 5 years, or B, that you've been married to a U.S. citizen for 3 years. People applying on the basis of military service do not have to pay a fee. Or Part D, other, I have never seen what that other eligibility category might be, so I honestly couldn't tell you what it is. It's usually A or B, that you've been a permanent resident for 5 years. Page 2, they're asking for your social security number, your date of birth, the date you became a permanent resident, your country of birth. So that is the name of the country that it was when you were born there. Sometimes countries change names, so I would insert the name of the country that it was when you were born. And again, the country of nationality, that's the country where you hold a passport to. Some people were born in India, but they're Pakistani citizens. So whatever country you hold a passport to, that's your country of nationality. Are either of your parents citizens? So if either of your parents became citizens and you were under 18 years old, then you may not have to apply. You may be able to derive citizenship from them. So again, consult an attorney or an accredited rep if your parents became citizens and you were under 18 years of age. Are you requesting a waiver of the English and U.S. history requirements? For individuals who are unable to learn English and U.S. history, say they have some mental condition, some processing issue, or they have dementia, then they would not be able to take the citizenship test. And in those instances, they would still be eligible for citizenship as long as they produce a document called a Form N-648, which a doctor completes saying that you're not able to study English and U.S. history, and they're waiving that requirement. So if you know anyone who would like to become a citizen and is eligible, but unfortunately they're not able to learn, please give me a call and I will help you have the doctor complete that form so that the INS waives the requirement for them. And again, in Part I, they're asking if you have a special accommodation to the naturalization process. Some individuals are hard of hearing. In that case, they would be eligible to take the test in written form only. And I've accompanied many people to those interviews where the officer asks the question and I write it for them, and this way they're allowed to take the test, but everything is in written form. And again, if they've been here for 20 years or 15 years and they're eligible to take the test in their own language, that's where you would insert that information. Part 4 is asking you for your home address. Even if you have a P.O. box, you must insert an address. And C is asking you for your phone number. You only have to give them one number. They're really not going to be calling you, so I wouldn't worry about providing all your phone numbers. Page 3. They're asking you if you're male or female, how tall you are, how much you weigh. Don't worry, they're not going to weigh you or measure you when you come in, so your best guess would be just fine. Are you Hispanic or Latino? And they're asking for your race, white, Asian, black, or African American, American Indian, or Native Hawaiian. Choose the one that is most suitable for you. Hair color, it would be the hair color that you have when you're applying. And eye color, whatever your eye color is. Now they're asking you in Part 6 where you have lived for the last 5 years. If you traveled abroad and had a trip for even 3 months or 4 months, that would not change your address. All addresses listed here should be United States addresses. If you traveled abroad, you did not give up your residence here, unless you were married to a U.S. citizen where you only need to prove 3 years of residence. But otherwise, all addresses listed here for 5 years should be in the United States, even if you traveled. That's a separate issue. And again, they're asking you from when to when. If you don't remember if you moved in July or September, that's fine. Just show continuous residence. All periods of time should be covered for the last 5 years. And again, where you worked in Part B, all the places that you've worked in the last 5 years. If you can't recall if you began your job in January or July, that's all right too, as long as you show where you were employed, where the address is, and basically a good estimate of when you began and ended employment. Most of this application is asking for the last 5 years. What you've done before that is irrelevant. You have to prove that you're eligible based on the last 5 years in most categories of eligibility. Some people have committed crimes and they've spent time in jail. They may never be eligible for citizenship because they have committed a certain crime. And for certain individuals who have a history of arrest, where they spent more than a year in jail or there was a drug issue, depending upon the crime, they may not want to apply and bring their issue to the forefront. I would suggest that these people should just remain permanent residents and not apply. But for each category, I would suggest that you consult an immigration attorney or an accredited rep just to be certain that you are or are not eligible and should or should not apply based on your history. Part 4 is asking for your trips. This is a very important question. They're asking you, where have you traveled in the last 5 years? Although the application asks, since you became a permanent resident, they are looking at only the last 5 years, and you need report only the last 5 years. Please report all trips. Count carefully. The United States stamped your passport when you entered. It didn't stamp your passport when you left, but the country that you visited did stamp your passport when you entered. So please check your passports to make sure that your dates are accurate. Some INS officers just simply leaf through your passport and say, all right, and just trust your word. Some go through every single trip. They want to make sure that you have not been outside this country for more than the time allotted. You cannot be outside for more than 917 days, not consecutively, over the last 5 years. But many officers believe that after 700 days, you're not proving continuous residence. So if you do have extended trips, again, consult an attorney, I can't say it enough, or an accredited rep to make sure that you are eligible, because you don't want to spend all that money and apply and then be denied at the interview. Right? So review your passports, write down each and every single trip that lasted 24 hours or more. If you went to Canada and you didn't stay, last 5 years only. So you have to review your passports, all your passports. If you went to Canada and you didn't stay for 24 hours, I wouldn't list it. If you stayed for 26 hours and no one checked your information at the border, you simply went through, I don't know if you even need to list that. We're looking for trips outside the United States that lasted for, a period of time, even 10 days or 5 days. You need to list. But a 24-hour, even a 2-day trip where no one marked your passport, I don't know if they're really interested in that. All right? Does anybody have any questions? Because the INS officer will ask you, as soon as you sit down and they review your name, when is the last time you traveled outside the United States? And so we're going to review interview preparation, but I cannot stress enough that this must be filled out accurately. And I cannot stress enough that if something happened to you, you should report it where they ask you on this test. Many people think that they won't be checking, or it was minor, or a record was expunged, but you need to be truthful. As long as you're truthful, you can deal with what happened and make a good decision whether or not you're eligible. But if you conceal the truth and the INS discovers that you were arrested or there was some incident, then it will look like you were holding back information, and that's not proving good moral character. So please be truthful. If there's an issue, we can deal with it, but we need to know what the issue is. They're asking you how many times you've been married. So if you're married now and this is your only marriage, then you've been married 1 time. And they're asking you, if you are now married, to report who your spouse is. Their name, their date of birth, when you were married, their social security number. If they're undocumented, if your spouse is undocumented, then under social security number, you would probably write NA, not applicable. Any slot that they ask you, any question, and it doesn't pertain to you, write NA not applicable so they know that you've dealt with the question, but it doesn't apply to you. And they're asking the address of your spouse. If you don't know if your spouse is separated, then you would write unknown. If you don't know, write unknown. They're asking you if your spouse is a citizen, the date your spouse became a citizen, and the place, whether it was Newark, New Jersey, or New York, wherever that was. If they're not a citizen, they want to know where your spouse has citizenship and their alien number, and if they have a green card, what the green card number is. Again, if they're not documented, for lawful permanent other, you would write Indian citizen or Mexican citizen if they don't have status in the United States. If you were married before, they want information about who your spouse was before. So however, if you were married before, however that marriage was terminated, either by divorce or if the spouse passed away, you need to produce a death certificate or a divorce document, and I would bring it to the interview. If it's in a foreign language, make sure that it's translated. They do not accept foreign language documents. I would bring both the original divorce or death certificate and a certified translation. Page 6 is asking you about your children. They're asking you to list all of your children, no matter the age, no matter where they live. Some people say, oh, but my child lives in Indonesia and they're 45 years old. You still need to list them, because if you become a citizen and you want to invite that child for a green card and you don't list their name here, then the INS can say to you that you did not list that child and therefore your petition may be denied. So list all children, and please list their names the way it is on their birth certificates. So you need to produce their name, the date of birth, their A number if they have one. If they were born in the United States, then simply write NA, the country of birth, and their address. If they live with you, simply write with me. All right? List all of your children, living or deceased. So now we're going to prove good moral character based on the questions from page 6 until the end of this application. And I would suggest that you understand what each question is asking you, the vocabulary of each question. Number 1 is asking you, have you ever claimed to be a United States citizen? That means, have you ever told anyone that you're a United States citizen? And you should write that the answer is no, because you never told anyone that you're a citizen. You're not claiming to be a citizen. That would disqualify you from becoming a citizen. You never told anyone that you're a citizen, and you never registered to vote, and you never voted, because only citizens are allowed to vote and to claim that they're citizens. So all of these questions listed here should be no. If the answer is yes, you need to attach a piece of paper explaining why the answer is yes. If you ever claim to be a citizen, if you ever register to vote, green card holders may not register to vote. If you ever voted, permanent residents may not vote in the elections. Did you ever fail to file a tax return? Do you owe any taxes that are overdue? Some people do have taxes that are overdue, and they've made an agreement with the IRS to pay their taxes. So then they don't owe any taxes that are overdue anymore. They've made an arrangement with the IRS to pay their taxes. So if you have a tax issue, again, please call an attorney or an accredited rep to confirm that you can still apply for citizenship. Do you have a title of nobility in a foreign country? That means, are you a king or a queen or a prince in your foreign country? Again, unfortunately, I've never met anyone who said yes to that question. Have you been declared incompetent or confined to a mental institution? Even if an individual was in a mental institution, they may still be eligible. So don't assume that anyone, if they've had mental health issues, would be disqualified from receiving citizenship. Page 7, have you ever been a member of any organization, foundation, party, society? The question is asking you if you were ever a member of any particular group. So if you are a member of a union, of a teachers' union, or a carpenters' union, you may list it here. But what they're really looking for is, were you ever a member of a communist party, terrorist group, any group that they would consider terroristic, or that their beliefs are adverse to the beliefs of the United States. Were you ever a member of the Communist Party? Some individuals were a member of a Communist Party in order to maintain their jobs. And if that's the case, then you would just simply attach a note explaining at the end that you were a member of the Communist Party, but you needed to be in order to maintain your position.